one-on-one interview between Hormazd Sorabjee and Mr. Mohal Lalbhai, founder and CEO of Matter. Hormazd, if I can hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mayank. Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting session today, and we are on the last session, but again, a very, very interesting one. It's my pleasure to have and welcome Mr. Mohal Lalbhai, the founder and CEO of Matter. And I'm going to be in conversation with him. Matter, as we know, is a technology innovation startup with its deep expertise in green technologies, electric motors, battery management systems. We've just seen the battery pack, thermal management system, and so on. And Mr. Lalbhai will be telling us more about his company, his products, his strategy. Mr. Lalbhai, welcome to the Two-Wheeler Conclave. And to begin with, you'd be the right person to just give us an overview of Matter, its aims, vision, objectives. So over to you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's a pleasure to be here. So talking about Matter, and I'm gonna kind of take bits and pieces of the last presentation along in the conversation going forward. Matter was founded with a vision to accelerate the adoption of EVs in India. And that meant understanding the Indian use case, understanding the Indian needs, understanding what is it that truly India requires. A product built for some other use case in some other part of the world may not be the right fit for the Indian consumer. And we felt it was high time that the Indian consumer, out of lack of better options, made poor choices. And that was the core founding objective of Matter. So it's been over 3 years that we've been building out piece by piece by piece the core technologies that make an electric vehicle. So as you mentioned that, yes, our drivetrain, the battery pack, along with the other electronics, the peripherals, the software layers, there's a lot of work that Matter has done and will continue doing until we reach our target.
Right. Mr. Lalbhai, you raise an interesting point that, to do it for India. I just wanted to ask you, what are the unique requirements, India poses? Would it be, obviously, we've talked about the high ambient temperatures. This is really one of possibly the hottest country which has reached a certain scale of electrification. Is it cost as well? And what really are really the key challenges or the nuances in developing, the products for India? I mean, right now, what we are seeing is a lot of products coming from maybe some other country, being rebadged and sold over here, and they get into a problem, and sometimes that even gives EVs a bad name, and we've been seeing that. In fact, sometimes there's too much panic around this. So just two questions over there. What is it that you'll do, which is really, what are the nuances of the Indian market? I would imagine cost is one of them, and of course, operating in very high ambient temperatures is another one of them.
So Mr. Sorabjee, you picked them up right. Cost and temperature are the ones which are, the lowest hanging fruit of them all. But that is not even, the entire story here.
Right.
We need to understand the roads that we are driving on. We need to understand the vibration profiles. We need to understand how everything comes together, especially in the context of what is the weight that a particular vehicle has to carry. We need to understand what are the driving uses. Is it city? Is it highway driving? There's a lot on the vehicle which is not truly understood, which needs to be captured well. And this defines one of the core basic blocks when you're talking safety, security, reliability, and performance. If we truly do not know for what we are building or for whom we are building, it's a goose chase. You really don't know where you'll end up. And that is where, just to give an example, two people with a gas cylinder out in the front on a two-wheeler is a very different use case as compared to one person driving it. And India as a country, we have varied demographies, and we are the largest kind of a mix of unique users in one country, and that is where there is never going to be a one product fits all approach. There will have to be multiple products which are offered, which cater to different use cases, and those products need to be understood in detail and presented as such. There can never be misinformation on this, because as you rightly said, it does have a certain damaging impact on the ecosystem.
Right. You said, designing products for India, you just come out with your own battery pack. Question is two questions, which I think maybe are challenges. One is to get the data. I mean, we are still on a very early journey of electrification. I don't know if we have enough data on this. And secondly, what I understand is really the dearth or lack of real talent in this space. I mean, it is very new, and we have traditionally been obviously rooted in IC engines and those technologies. Do you think these are a couple of challenges just from the fact that we are still very much in a nascency, especially in the Indian market?
So on the lack of data, I will say that we are the largest two-wheeler producer and consumer on the planet.
What I meant is we are just a few years, we're not too many. I mean, we've not even gone through a life cycle of products, so to speak, to get the full life cycle kind of data of a product. That's what I was saying.
So on that topic, there are enough simulation, testing, validation, and analysis methods available. But it is truly about making sure that, again, what are you designing for? Is this a product that's supposed to run in city conditions in metros, as compared to something that's gonna go between cities on the highway in Rajasthan? Now, there's an absolute delta in terms of engineering when you're looking at these two. And what are you truly covering when you're giving a product for India? So I don't think life cycle so much. I think it is the way the design starts from ground up. I mean, we at Matter have gone through the journey. We ourselves have burnt our hands, fingers, toes, whatever you call it, multiple times in coming out with the product we have. I mean, and sometimes we were so confident about something working out, but truly when the team put it in a particular use case, it failed. And that is the true challenge that comes in when you're doing it for the first time. The second time onwards, all of this information, the mindset towards design, everything gets very well aligned, and you don't see that. So I would call this as a teething trouble, but not really something which is a roadblock. As far as talent is concerned, I would beg to differ on that topic, that India has been home to many multinational corporations across the globe. People in India designing powertrains and battery packs through the MNCs for their European counterparts. So the skill is definitely there in India. It is just that, it needs to be brought together with the right vision and the right, I would say, clarity of thought on what needs to be done. And it's definitely not a big concern. And especially at Matter, I mean, we've been very open to taking on board people, even from allied industries, and bring them in, because at the end of the day, what you need is somebody who can actually solve the problem you have. Qualifications after a point really matters only so much.
Right. No, that's very interesting. And coming to what you had earlier said, that we are just the fact that we are such a large EV market. I mean, the two-wheeler market, and obviously EVs are growing within that. We would have a lot of data just by the sheer number of vehicles on the road going forward. I just wanted to get a sense of the let's say the two-wheeler industry from you. How do you see it shaping up, especially in the EV space? Are we going to see segmentation? What do you think of the market size? We have a lot of low-speed products right now. Do you see them transitioning to more kind of substantial products. Of course, they'll get more expensive. And the whole thing of, in the end, subsidies, how long they will last and the impact if that would be taken away. So, is there what are the categories Matter is focusing on within this?
So I'll start with the last question, which is, so we are currently focusing on electric two-wheelers.
Yeah.
Not going into further specifics until we start launching products, but electric two-wheelers as a whole is a segment which is here to stay. And I wasn't old enough when this transition happened, but I've been taught enough about it when the Bajaj scooter went to a motorcycle, and a scooter to motorcycle transition. And from there, the core learnings which are there is that the cost of ownership was the true driver. Even though people had to go through a certain inconvenience during that transition, which is true even when newer generation motorcycles were launched. And that is the same philosophy which is going to keep going forward. Electric vehicles today drive a certain cost advantage in operation as compared to internal combustion vehicles, which in the future will become a conversation about electric vehicle efficiency and total cost of ownership. That, coupled with state-of-the-art features, which we are all feature geeks today. So that is what is truly going to drive adoption. And motorcycles are the mainstay of India. India runs on motorcycles. Yes, India runs on two-wheelers, but India specifically runs on motorcycles. And we don't really see that changing overnight. It is going to be a part of the transition once the right kind of products are available in India. Because today the EV space in India is a supply constraint, not only from chip shortages and material prices moving, but especially from the availability of products which actually solve consumer needs. So once that playing field starts stabilizing, we would see either a transition, some percentage point changes here and there, but largely it's still going to stay a motorcycle dominated market.
And, I want to touch upon the cost issue. Okay, so I get what you're saying. That's very interesting. While a lot of people are betting a lot on scooters, and we've seen that, you feel electric motorbikes, there's a lot of opportunity going forward. So, before I get into the next question, why, scooters tend to lend themselves a little bit better for electrification, or so it would seem. But you are obviously very bullish on motorcycles as well.
Again, it's the problem that you're trying to solve. Once you start thinking from a flat piece of paper saying we need to solve this problem, eventually solutions come out of it. It is all about grit and engineering that is going to solve these challenges. And somebody had to go out and say, if not anyone else, then us. Somebody has to solve these problems.
Right. And, the other one big hurdle, obviously, is cost. Now, we were hoping that, with scale, with newer technologies, improving efficiencies in manufacturing, the cost of electric products would come down and would soon be have cost parity with the ICE products. But, we've seen lithium prices going through the roof completely in the last 1 year. We are not sure whether subsidies will be there forever. So with these two kind of issues, what is your thought on, let's say, can they be really cost competitive as quickly as we thought they could be?
So we've actually lost 2 years because of the pandemic, the industry as a whole, and the geopolitical situations which keep evolving, which keep inflation at where it is. We see these as a temporary blip. The general trend of lithium has always been downward, and it will continue going downward. The subsidy has actually done its purpose. It has actually enabled a conversation around electric vehicles in the entire country. I would not know anyone who is at least not aware of the fact that electric vehicles are mainstream now. And with that being said, it would be great if, it's just these 2 years which need to be caught up. We really don't see much of a delta if either the subsidy could be extended or global supply chains are able to figure out how to catch up. Either ways, this is a very, very temporary problem. And in the longer term, this is not going to be something that's going to be a conversation at all.
Right. So that's interesting. So what you're saying is these two issues long term are not going to be issues. I mean, obviously subsidies is something which we've not got the full benefit of, or we have because we've lost 2 years. So what you're suggesting is, they perhaps we look at further 2 years from now on, and the fact that you do feel lithium and other raw material prices will come down eventually, as we are living in a shortage economy right now. But once things free up, you think it'll be we'll be back on track?
100%. I mean, we are already seeing signs of some breathers coming out in terms of the semiconductor shortages. I mean, things which were at 80 plus weeks for lead time have started dropping fast. And, we're hopeful that these are small blips which happen to all industries and any industry. Nobody spared out of these. And they will, I mean, this is for us kind of a bump on the road, nothing else.
Right. And again, just sticking to the market, what is your forecast or prediction of, let's say the size of the eventual electric bike two-wheeler market?
So that's a very interesting conversation because, we tend to use the 22 million vehicles two-wheeler market. But there is also a very young force which is going to come into working life in the next few years. And mobility is going to be required for everyone. I mean, it's a part of life. You can't really do without. And that is where we are expecting that this current fundamental number is going to keep growing at a significant rate. And about 30% of that number is very, very much possible by the turn of the decade. For sure, if not more. And it all comes down to companies like Matter and others, whoever are participating in this journey, to actually start delivering products which the consumers really would like to adopt.
Right. And, just looking at, just going specific to the technologies. I mean, you developed your Matter One battery pack, but again, conversation today is kind of is, I would say, even hijacked by all the thermal issues which we've been having. Mr. Singh also spoke about it. So obviously, this kind of raises the question on things like everything about BMS systems, thermal management. And I just wanted to get your views, on respect to battery technologies. What are the trends going forward? Of course, there's testing and validation. I mean, do you think there has to be regulation to even specify the technology? Because today we've seen even journalists becoming experts saying you have to have liquid cooling for everything, for example. So I just wanted to get your sense on the technologies, the trends, and which direction they would be heading, and especially given your experience.
So, I'll take a step back and kind of specify a point that we keep talking about batteries, because those are the parts which are really not performing up to spec today as the market's talking about them. But that still does not leave away motors, the powertrain, the other electronics. These are also all prone to failures if not designed properly. So I would like to kind of talk about, there have been instances in the past where battery is new, but the performance is still deteriorated. And people start blaming the battery before they look at all the other things that actually go into the product. Battery is just a source of energy, and that just needs to be handled well. I wouldn't even say delicately. These are robust built products which can undergo a lot more than what a vehicle can throw at them. But it's the overall system which actually tends to start seeing failures. And one part not working in an entire body means that body is not perfectly fine. And that is the problem where we have actually thought through and designed all critical elements. I mean, when we talk about even the motor itself, there are certain things which have to be taken care of. And, for us, we are not looking at this as a short-term thing, we make and sell. We need to take care of our customers through the entire journey of adoption and make sure they come back for a second product. So with that in mind, it becomes very essential that all technologies, obviously, especially the battery, but all technologies are treated with respect. And truly there are no shortcuts in developing automotive products in India or elsewhere as well. I mean, there can't be a shortcut because the testing and validation time, what it is required, we talk about summer trials and winter trials, they
Yeah.
have to be done. We need to truly understand even what we are sending out on the road. A lot of people, I mean, us included, it is very easy to make proof of concepts or prototypes. It's actually when we need to take them to production is where that diligence is truly required. And in our 3-year journey, we have created infinite number of prototypes, but the true blood, sweat, and tears comes in when you're trying to productionize the vehicle.
No, that's very refreshing to hear because honestly, there was a general view that some startups, with us just want to rush into things, but it's really heartening to hear that you do understand the kind of importance of validation, especially through a seasonal life cycle. I mean, you
Yep.
can't have all 4 seasons in less than 365 days, so only God can do that, maybe. But I get what you're saying. So, but again, I want to just go back to the fact that whilst you have said that you do Matter takes the validation very, very seriously. I just want to touch a bit on the cell chemistry and at the cell level, because that frankly is the secret sauce. One is, do you see chemistry is really evolving over time? I mean, a move to solid state that still seems to be quite far away. NMC, LCA, LFP. I mean, is there any kind of a trend you see happening for Indian conditions, and even eventually what future technologies would be? And another question after that, which makes investing quite difficult at the cell level, because huge amount of investment, and you would need a fair amount of time for that to pay off in terms of scale.
So, I mean, I've heard this generalization for quite some time that there is one cell chemistry which is the winner. We are trying to equate this to petrol and diesel, where standardization has reached a certain level. But
Right.
unfortunately, I mean, we can talk about sodium ions, we can talk about NCAs, NCMs, LFPs, LTOs. All of these chemistries have a certain characteristic, and all of these have different applications. So, I mean, if I have to talk energy, I will not even drop the idea of hydrogen for certain kinds of automotive products. There is no one true winner. There will be winners in classes.
No silver
And
bullet. Yeah.
there can't be a silver bullet, because that means that we are telling ourselves that we know it all.
Right.
And that is definitely not true. We are also evolving with the industry, as are the chemistries. And that is where the ability to have control over your technology from a complete vertical integration makes absolute sense, because you are then able to pivot to the next best thing, if there is one, or still continue and reach the economies of scale which are required for the current technologies which exist. So we are not expecting the LFPs or the NCMs or the NCAs to disappear when sodium ion arrives. No, that's factually incorrect.
Right.
And there will be optimizations and further developments, but the core materials are not really gonna disappear.
Right.
So from an investing perspective, again, India is going to require close to 200, 250 gigawatt hours of batteries in the next 10 years.
Capacity, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and I can't say that it's all going to be one chemistry or the other. So even people who are putting in battery plants today will have to scale them 10 times over to actually meet India's demand. And that is where I believe that there is no wrong choice today. There is
Right.
always going to be a need for a particular chemistry in India.
Right. So obviously, a very healthy forecast which you see. But I just want to ask you, if you were to sum up, maybe we're running short of time, but just want to get your thoughts on, let's say, the key triggers for mass adoption of two-wheelers. I mean, we know the typical ones: cost, range, all that sort of thing. But is there anything else that you think could really stimulate demand?
We definitely need to bring the future today. I mean, be it in terms of features, be it in terms of connectivity, be it in terms of convenience. Obviously, the hygiene factors of safety, security, reliability, and performance start delivering a product which is doing exactly what it says on the box is good enough. India wants electric vehicles. They just don't trust them yet.
Right. Okay. So to build that trust, so you think there is a trust deficit and we need to build that trust?
Definitely. And we need to kind of show the world that India itself can produce the best vehicles it can. And on top of it, consumers are willing to try things out, but not at expense of anything. They really want it all. And that is what we are here to deliver.
Right. That's very interesting. And, but sorry, just jumping back, you were talking about batteries and all the chemistries. But, is this a bit counter to the a policy on battery standardization? I mean, you think that's a practical way forward? Because standardization in a way in one certain direction, it would mean form factor, it would mean chemistry as well, I suppose. Do you think that's practical and or would it kind of inhibit innovation and technology?
So standardization on form factor, capacities, voltages will definitely inhibit more efficient systems coming around. But standardization in terms of testing, validation, and the regulatory framework, standards, I mean, any one of our AIS standards, that will definitely help the system come at par in terms of the minimum hygiene required for a battery pack. And this holds true for motors, this holds true for all the other components that go on to an electric vehicle.
Right. And last question, Mr. Lalbhai, I'm going to pin you down on this, but it's far away. So, I don't know whether we'll be able to, we'll have to wait to see if you're right. When do you think the last ICE two-wheeler will be produced?
Again, I don't think all ICE vehicles are ever going to be eradicated. That might happen when we run out of fuel, because I don't believe there's a winner takes all approach when I'm looking at the entire automotive space. Yes, for personal vehicles, that could happen as quickly as next 15 years. But if I look at commercial vehicles and a lot of other things included, we still have aircrafts which will need fuel. So kind of setting the context, personal vehicles, I believe the next 15 years, we would have seen the last of them being produced.
Okay, great. That's an interesting forecast. And I think we are end of the session, but I think we have time maybe for just one question. We've got it from Mr. Shanmugavelu, his question is, what's the future plan to fix matter battery in an EV bike or EV scooter as per customer requirements? So basically, if there's some issue, what plans do you have to kind of, let's say, sort it out for the customer? Clearly, he's got a trust issue already. Yeah.
No, so for that, particularly predictive maintenance and things like those are already built into the vehicle. Before the consumer is, facing difficulties on the vehicle, there is obviously the argument of transparency. We would like to inform the consumer on what is happening, and we would also be aware of what is happening so we can address this, because at the end of the day, consumer experience is a paramount pillar in our building block, and that is something that we take very seriously, and that is not something that we're going to let happen. And especially with the fact that the amount of testing and validation that's happened, there has to be something seriously amiss from our side.
Well, with that, I'd like to end the session. We've completely run out of time. Mr. Lalbhai, it was really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you really for your very clear, concise, thoughts. Gives us a lot of hope and trust that, companies like yours will kind of push towards for a better, safer, cleaner future with, especially with electrification. And really wish you all the best in your journey ahead. And with that, I'd like to close this session and hand it over to Mike. But any last words you want to say, Mr. Lalbhai? I think you were.
So I actually wanted to thank you for the opportunity, and the pleasure is all mine. And it's actually heartening to see a lot of interest and a lot of ideas in this space. And I am a strong believer of Make in India, for India, and by India. And that's the road we are on. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolute pleasure, Mr. Lalbhai. And, I think it's a journey everyone is on. There's no U-turns on this road. It's just trying to accelerate as quickly as possible. So thanks very much again. And with that, I will end this session and hand it back to Mayank, to close it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayank.
Thank you so much, Hormazd. Thank you, Mr. Lalbhai. It was really a wonderful conversation, and thank you, Hormazd, for summing it up really nicely. We are actually in the midst of some really nice disruptions, if I may say so. And over the last 2 days, as Mr. Lalbhai was saying, it is time for India to step up its game and sort of catch this opportunity to become as a global EV hub. If you talk about the electric two-wheeler space, we've had an interesting 2-day event with lots of great speakers, starting right from Tarun Mehta, the CEO of Ather Energy. Today we had Mr. Chetan Maini from Sun Mobility, and in the middle of all of this, we had some great young brains coming from the startup ecosystem in India in the electric two-wheeler space. So we really hope that you enjoyed this overall 2-day event on the various challenges and opportunities of the electric two-wheeler space. And with that, we would like to thank you, all of you, for your support and for your participation over the 2 days. And I would like to again thank our sponsors for this event, our presenting partner Varroc, powered by BASF, technology partner Matter, and associate partners Covestro and Serenese. If you missed any of the sessions and you would want to go back and see them again, you could go to the Autocar Professional YouTube channel. You can find the recordings there, and you can just log in there and just have a look at the recorded runs. And with that, we hope to see you next time with another event. Till then, thank you so much for your participation. Take care.